For eons, New Texas was just an empty waste planet of burning desert and bare rock, until galactic prospectors discovered vast deposits of curium, one of the rarest and most valuable minerals in the universe, and vital for powering Earth's spaceships. In the great curium rush which followed, settlers came to New Texas, and after them came gangs of thieves and outlaws who terrorized the innocent townsfolk. They sent an urgent message to Earth. If law and order were to be restored, 1,000 lawmen were needed immediately. But only one arrived, a man with supernatural animal powers given to him by his ancient tribal ancestors, Marshal Bravestarr. With the aid of his faithful friend, 3030, Bravestarr takes on the evil outlaw, Tex Hex, and his gang. Bravestarr. The Gunslinger. Roald McCoy was determined to retire peacefully. His reputation as a gunslinger stretched across 5 galaxies, which was how come he'd lived so long. But even McCoy knew that no one stays at the top forever. He was determined to go out on 2 feet and enjoy his old age. What he needed was some backwater planet, light years from anywhere, somewhere quiet where he could retire in peace. He chose New Texas. McCoy didn't know that the star atlas he consulted was printed a full 4 years before the Great Curium Rush. True, New Texas had once been the dead end of nowhere, but things had changed. A lot. McCoy's reputation as a top gunslinger had traveled ahead of him. Tex Hex was particularly interested. As leader of the notorious bunch of outlaws holed up in the Hexagon, he thought McCoy would make an invaluable new addition. Tex Hex was not alone in his interest. Every young tearaway in Fort Curium saw a chance to take on the aging gunslinger and make a name for themselves. If he'd been looking for a quiet life, McCoy was on the wrong planet. Bravestarr was not slow to see trouble looming with a capital T, which was why he was standing on the shuttle pad with 3030 and Judge J.B. as McCoy stepped on to New Texas soil.
Raold McCoy?
Said Bravestarr.
Yep.
Nodded the newcomer.
I'm taking you into protective custody,
said the lawman. Before he could object, Judge J.B. activated a copter link, and the startled McCoy was on his way to the Fort Curium jail.
Prevention's better than cure,
smiled Bravestarr.
I'll talk to him later. I wouldn't want him to think he's under arrest.
Deputy Fuzz was enjoying his spell in charge of the jail. He sat in Bravestarr's chair and imagined he was the marshal. And now he had a real important prisoner to guard.
Marshal Fuzz!
He daydreamed to himself.
Marshal Fuzz!
Bravestarr and 3030 had some business with a bunch of rustlers out on One Horn Range, so it was late when they rode back into town. The sight that met their eyes in Main Street spurred 3030 into a full gallop. There was smoke pouring out of the door of the jail, and as they pulled up outside, they could see through the broken windows that most of the back wall had been blown away. Doc Clayton was busily bandaging Deputy Fuzz.
You okay, Deputy?
Asked Bravestarr, concerned.
Fuzz not hurt as bad as Fuzz look, Bravestarr,
he replied. 3030 peered inside the jail and whistled softly.
What happened, partner? Looks like a bomb hit it.
Deputy Fuzz nodded dully.
That's hitting nail on head. Yes, sir.
He rubbed his head and looked up at Bravestarr.
I awful sorry, Bravestarr,
said the deputy.
You leave Fuzz in charge and Fuzz let you down. I guess I better hand over my badge. Tex Hex freed captured gunslinger.
There was celebration of sorts in the Hexagon. Tex Hex had gathered his whole evil gang together to meet their latest recruit. Outlaw Scuzz was delighted. Thunderstick was less welcoming, seeing in McCoy a rival to his own importance in the gang. Vipra, as always, remained detached. Sandstorm was unimpressed. Another human on the planet was one too many as far as he was concerned. Tex Hex's eyes gleamed with evil at the thought of the destruction he could now reap.
Welcome to Badlands, McCoy,
said Tex Hex.
I reckon you're gonna fit in real well with the boys here. With you alongside us, there ain't a man on the planet can stand up against us.
McCoy replied coldly.
Count me out.
The expression on Tex Hex's face turned as black as thunder.
Nobody says no to Tex Hex, cowboy,
he exploded.
Not if you know Tex Hex,
added Vipra.
You're either for us,
said Thunderstick menacingly,
or against us.
McCoy sat unmoved.
I guess you leave me no choice,
said McCoy slowly. The gang relaxed momentarily.
Reach or freeze,
yelled the gunslinger, snatching Scuzz's neutral laser. McCoy's speed left them helpless.
I don't aim to use this,
said McCoy through gritted teeth.
But don't bank on it.
Backing away with the neutral laser still trained on the outlaws, McCoy made his escape on one of the skull walkers tied up outside. He'd been in tighter corners than this. Instinct made him go to ground. He'd hide till the heat was off. The bank at Fort Kiriam was not a big one, although more money passed over its counter than many a central bank in the main star systems. Kiriam was big business on New Texas, and big business meant big money. Since Bravestarr had become the law in New Texas, there hadn't been a major bank raid. History was about to be made. As Derringer, the bank manager, was closing up for the day, he was tackled from behind, tied up, and blindfolded. He didn't see a thing. Sometime later, Bravestarr stood by the empty safe, listening to Derringer's loud complaints.
We pay you to keep this town law-abiding, Marshal.
He was wailing.
Now one lousy gunslinger shows up, and you let him walk in and rob the bank.
The safe was full?
Asked Bravestarr.
Well, no,
admitted Derringer.
But that's beside the point. The bank has a reputation to maintain. Who's going to deposit money here now?
Bravestarr's mouth remained tight-lipped.
He won't escape,
he said firmly.
Rest easy.
Back at the jail, plans were laid.
It was McCoy?
Asked 3030.
He left us his autograph on the wall,
replied Bravestarr.
Shameful,
said 3030.
Defacing private property.
I rather think Derringer was more concerned about the money,
smiled Bravestarr.
Nevertheless,
continued Bravestarr,
we have to stop McCoy before he causes real trouble.
We track him down, Bravestarr?
asked Deputy Fuzz.
Yeah, that's the idea, partner,
replied Bravestarr.
Karen McBride's joining us on the manhunt.
Karen McBride was the wife of the owner and editor of the New Texas Times. Her experience as an ex-commando with the Galactic Patrol had proved invaluable to Bravestarr on many occasions. She was more than delighted to help. Angus McBride was there with his camera to capture the posse's departure for the front page of the Times. "Take care!" he shouted after them from his turbo mule.
"Don't worry, Angus," Bravestarr called back. "We'll get our man."
Prairie Intelligence reported a stranger had been seen up by the old Lucky Strike mine workings. The posse, made up of Bravestarr, 3030, Karen, and J.B., headed out along the old trail. Deputy Fuzz, much to his annoyance, was put in charge of Fort Kiriam while Bravestarr was away. He wanted to capture the gunslinger himself. The campfire at the Lucky Strike was still warm. Bravestarr used the eyes of the hawk to scan the landscape, but without success.
"Our bird has flown,"
he concluded. High above, McCoy looked down on the group of figures. He'd escaped a few posses in his time, and he wasn't about to be caught sitting by his campfire. No, sir. Bravestarr stood tall.
"I know you're watching us, McCoy,"
he shouted.
"Give yourself up. We know the jailbreak wasn't your idea. With good behavior, you'd only get 5 years for the bank job."
"Son of a gun,"
whispered McCoy, disappearing into the rocks. Back in Fort Kiriam, Deputy Fuzz was concentrating hard on his job. He was patrolling round the town when he bumped into Daisy, who was out for a stroll. Suddenly, as they passed the livery stable, they were jumped from behind. When he came to, Daisy was gone, and beside him on the ground lay a scrawled note. Rubbing his head, he picked up the scrap of paper.
"Oh, no!"
he said.
"What Bravestarr say? McCoy kidnapped Daisy!"
Bravestarr was none too happy, but told Deputy Fuzz not to blame himself. McCoy was no beginner.
"Karen," said Bravestarr, "I think we have a print job for Angus. Raoul McCoy, wanted for robbery and kidnap. This has to stop now."
The wanted posters were put up everywhere. One of the most interested readers was McCoy himself.
"Bank robbery, and now kidnap,"
fumed McCoy.
"This has gone far enough. I came to New Texas for some peace. Bravestarr has to go."
Main Street was empty. News had reached Fort Kiriam that McCoy was headed in for a showdown. Most folks preferred to read about it in the paper rather than rent a front row seat. Bravestarr stood alone. A stray ball of tumbleweed rolled along the vacant street. the lone figure of McCoy stepped out into the hot sand.
Bravestarr!
He shouted. Moments ticked by in slow motion as their eyes met in icy silence. The two men stood facing one another along the wide, dusty street, ready to draw.
I've come for you,
said McCoy. The next second, a shot rang out. Both men went for their guns instinctively. Bravestarr cried,
"Speed of the Puma!"
The spirit of the Puma rose behind him, giving him supernatural speed. Bravestar's shot ripped into the storeroom above the livery stable. McCoy, thinking he was being fired on, drew. But Deputy Fuzz's multi-rope snatched the neutral laser from his hand. There was a cry of dismay, and the figure of Tex Hex was seen racing away. Hours later, McCoy stood on the shuttle pad saying his goodbyes.
I'm sure glad you spotted Tex Hex hiding in the storeroom with Daisy,
he said.
I'm glad, too,
agreed Bravestarr.
I suddenly realized Tex Hex was trying to frame you because you'd refused to join his gang. We have to be thankful no one was badly hurt.
Judge J.B. joined in.
Good to have you on our side, McCoy. Deciding to join the Marshals Academy is the best move you ever made.